Cool. So, welcome to Elite Encounter, the very first episode of this podcast. The goal with this podcast is to kind of elevate the Pokemon Unite community to another level. I want to be a pro player as well, which is how I met Yashi, which is our first guest here. But I also want to contribute in another way, and I think a podcast is one of those things that maybe this community is missing. So this is our first episode. We'll see how it goes, and maybe we'll troubleshoot some things or change some things along the way. So don't get too comfortable with the format, but welcome.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank you very much.
so Yashi, maybe we should talk a little bit about who you are and what you're doing. From what I know, you are the community leader for this group on Discord called Fight Club.
hmm
Um, and we actually met because I was trying out for another team, which unfortunately I didn't make it.
Yeah, that was a long time ago when we met. I remember when I still had Oblivion Gaming, but there was a team that I had a long time ago, and you tried out for it, but it didn't go. It didn't really go well.
Well, I tried out for a few teams and they didn't go well. I mean, some of them did, some of them not so much. But of course, I learned a lot and I've adapted because that's part of the process, right?
I agree. I agree.
So, how did you get started
Like,
with like this community and that sort of thing?
okay, so it's gonna sound pretty funny, but when it talks about Fight Club, it's actually pretty new. I actually made a group. Like, I had a pretty big friend group, and I didn't actually want to play with most of them because I didn't think they were that good. So, or I didn't like them enough because I spent a lot of my hours playing the game, and it's pretty important that you spend those hours playing with people you like. So I kind of made a secret group, a secret server that people wouldn't know, and I would just put myself on offline in game, and I would just play with my friends. And eventually, I added more and more of my buddies into it, and then we kind of started running 5v5s in server. I think it was called Goon Squad back then. And yeah, I guess then I was like, at some point, it kind of clicked for me that I had a conversation with Klaus, which is a pro player in the community. I'm not a pro player at least not yet. I hope in the future. But I had a conversation with him, which he was expressing some feelings about the European scene. Some things I resonated with, some things I didn't, but that's part of a healthy discourse.
Yeah.
And eventually, while speaking to him, I realized that though I have a lot to bitch about the community, I'm not really doing much myself to improve the situation.
I mean, it's good that you noticed that. A lot of people probably notice this, but don't do much anyway. And you did.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, let me brainstorm for a week about what I want to do. It took me, instead of a week, it took me 2 days to reach the enlightenment needed. I was like, okay, EU enough seem to be dead. I think that's probably the first thing I could tackle. There was already a group in the Unity Clash server, in which me and a couple of friends, we joined that, brainstorm group to improve the in-houses and to improve the European scene. And it was just a failed attempt. It didn't really work out. I don't want to talk too much about that one, but eventually I was like, since the current EU community admins haven't done that great of a job in it, I think I should try it a different way. Usually these people that are running these in-house things, they're not actually playing themselves, don't actually know the environment, the problems that people face. And there are problems right now as well, because I noticed that some people have dropped out of playing, maybe for just normal reasons, but maybe I don't play that much, because that's usually right at the start of the server like that, everyone's playing.
Yeah.
It dies down, but I want to know why exactly. So some people just don't play as much. That's fair, because some people work themselves towards burnout and unite, and then a part stop playing because of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big challenge to find out who stopped playing because of who, and how to manage this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll get there.
I mean, it's hard to know. I can tell you my opinions, of course. I mean, I've been contributing, or I've been participating quite a bit since I've been invited. And actually, right before you invited me, I was literally thinking like, I need to find a solution for playing with players who use voice chat, because that was my number one thing I was missing. Like I can obviously get experience with certain
Hmm.
characters and that sort of thing on my own, but it's a whole different story when you're playing with voice chat and when you're not playing with voice chat. And you can't really rely on random people in the game to to communicate in voice chat, let alone to
Yeah, it's
communicate
not gonna
in the
work.
same language.
Yeah. I mean, it's Europe, so the problem here is bigger than in America. You know, if in America you're in voice chat, everyone's speaking American. If you're in Japan, you know, usually you get matched against Japanese people. Everyone speaks Japanese. But here you get French, German, Dutch, British, everything in one lobby, and it's a lot more challenging.
For sure.
And no one really uses in-game voice chat anyway.
Yeah. But I'm actually curious about like you yourself. Like, what part of Europe did you hail from?
Netherlands. I am in Netherlands right now, Rotterdam.
Uh-huh. So you grew up
And you
in the
yourself?
Netherlands?
Yeah. I was born in the same town my girlfriend now lives. It's like 20 minutes drive from here. So, and I've always stayed local in this area. You know, I've been on a lot of vacations, but generally I'm always in the Netherlands.
Gotcha. But yeah, about me, you asked. I actually grew up in the U.S., but my family is Romanian. So I grew
Hmm.
up in like a Romanian household, and we visited Europe many times. I speak Romanian and everything. But long story short, I eventually just kind of got sick of the American lifestyle where you need a car for everything.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you had the chance to visit the suburbs in America. Have you?
No, no, never been there.
Well, let me tell you, it's it's it sucks because you have to drive everywhere. When you're young, obviously you can't drive. So you're kind of, stuck in these huge areas with just houses. And sure, you can try to play with kids on the street, but I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, where during the summer it's just like ridiculously hot. You cannot go outside. Like you're just melting. And what we ended up doing was playing video games in the garage because it was
On
too
the
hot to
garage.
play. Yeah, because it was too hot to play outside. And the garage was like a place where the kids can just hang out. Like my parents had like a space in the garage, so we set up like an old TV there, our GameCube, and we started playing Super Smash Bros.
Hmm.
And stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was good, except it was still hot, but at least it was in the shade.
Yeah, that's correct. I get what you mean.
So I grew up in the U.S. and well, I went to college there. I started working there for a bit, but essentially, I became like traumatized by the lifestyle of the car because it requires lots of sitting. Like you sit a lot when you're at work. You sit a lot when you're going from one place to another, and you don't get enough exercise. And I started having back pain, like really bad, really really bad back pain. And I said, okay, I need to change something. And the thing I changed was not driving everywhere. Initially, I wanted to live in like a walkable city in the US, but those are very expensive. You also have to live in a
Hmm.
walkable neighborhood. And there's only a few of those. So I said, all right, screw it. My family's Romanian. I know Romanian. Romania has a lower cost of living. There's more walkable cities in Romania. Seems like the most logical answer. And eventually I made my move there. And that's when I started working remotely and just kind of traveling. And I ended up embracing what's called the digital nomad lifestyle. Are you
Hmm.
familiar with that?
Yeah. It's like when you're working remotely and you can kind of work from anywhere and you're just traveling around, finding your place to be, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's a loaded statement, your place to be. Because I realized, after doing this lifestyle for a while now, it's like it's not necessarily that like what is home? And I think honestly for me it's where you have that feeling of being at home, like, and that essentially boils down to like the community of people you're surrounded by, the kind of people that you encounter on a regular basis. Um, and I don't know, it's just a feeling. But anyway, so I've been doing that for like the last, I don't know, 8 years, I guess. Um, and so I work remotely. I actually teach English online.
Mhm.
That's my main thing. But I have a few other projects that I do. Um, Like I sell courseware online. I made a few online courses on how to teach English online, or also how to become a master in Pokemon Unite. That one I made just for fun, and we both know how it's.
I'm really curious to see that one.
Well, it's free. You can you can check out the link on my Twitch profile, or I can send you the link.
Okay, that would be cool. I would like to read that then.
But to be honest, we both know it's stupid easy to get into master rank, right?
True. One moment, I need to plug in my charger.
Yeah, no worries.
There it is. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so we were saying it's stupid easy to get into master rank, and I knew that. So when the game came out, I decided to commit to just playing this game, and I said, okay, I'm gonna make a course on how to get into master rank, and then if I become a pro player, I'm gonna make another course on how to become a pro player. So I guess that's kind of my goal. My next goal is to make a course on how to get to 1600, which is reasonably difficult, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be a bit of a challenge. Although I would say, um, for me, it just comes with playing. Before I realized it, I'm 1600, and I didn't really do much. I'm not really trying to get there, but it generally has to do with just playing games. For me, then, like, at least. But there are plenty of people I know in the community who already think it's a challenge to get to ultra or master. Like that's 1200. So I'm not. It's not. It's not really. I'm talking about everyone. I don't try to like downplay how much effort it takes, but you also need to win your games. But generally, for me, it's pretty doable. But I'm around 65% win rate a season, 70% season. So
Wow, that's pretty good.
I don't know. It comes. I'm not even looking at it, and then after like 100 games, I'm like, oh, I won like 80% of the games I played. No worries.
Well, to be honest, it doesn't really mean much because, like, the way the ranking system works, essentially, when you're a lower rank, it's just a matter of time until you get up to 1400.
Yeah.
Because for someone that isn't familiar, essentially, like, you have these like, what's it called? The system where like if you lose a game, you don't go down in the rank.
Rank protection cards, you mean?
Yeah, there's that as well. But there's like a progress bar that when it kind of goes up high enough and you lose a match, your rank doesn't go down. Anyway, the point is like,
okay, yeah.
It's just a matter of time until you get up to 1400 because after you get to master rank, the amount of points that you lose is smaller than the points that you gain when you win a match until you reach 1400, which is kind of a recent update because it used to be 1600.
Yeah, I do remember, like, but it does get more difficult the higher you get, because like I remember when I was around 2200 in the month leading up to regionals, and you would lose like 20 points every loss, and you would gain only 7 6.
Really?
So it does get harder at some point. Yeah. If you're at around 2200, you gain very small amounts, but you lose a lot.
Yeah, at that level, yeah, of course. So I think the win rate actually doesn't really mean much because when a new season starts, I know that it's just a matter of time until you get to 1400. And what I do is I practice characters that I'm not familiar with, or I practice new strategies, which means I'm more likely to lose. And as I go up closer and closer to 1400, that's when I start playing the characters that I'm more familiar with and I have more confidence in, because I think it's important to experiment and try out different stuff as well.
I agree with that. It's definitely more really important to experiment. However, when it comes to playing Pokemon, let's say I've never played Scyther, right? And I'm about to I want to try out Scyther. Generally, I would spend like 10 minutes in practice mode, just practicing combos, getting it streamlined, and then I queue up into a game, and I do pretty well in that case. But I know that if I were to pick up Scyther, go into a game immediately without doing the practice mode first, It's not going to be that easy of a game. Well, so I would say, when it comes to practicing picking up a new Pokemon doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna more likely to lose if you try to practice well on it in practice mode. I think it's very useful. As example, I remember back in the day when I picked up Urshifu Blue, I like, not to sound arrogant, but there's no one else who plays Urshifu Blue in Europe, and I'm probably the best one at it as well in Europe. But every week I spend several days just trying to get 50 procs on my ultimate counter, which means you have pretty fast hands, because usually people can only get to around 42.
Yeah.
There's only one other person I know who gets to 50, which is Aerial Assault. And I think that's a pretty good way to warm up. So like, even if I don't play Urshifu for like a month, I'm always ready to play it at a very high level, just because I use practice mode the most.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's super important because that's all about the micro skills. You gotta practice getting all that under control. But how did you end up like committing to this one game, or do you also play other games?
Yeah. I love playing Mobile Legends, which I used to be a pro in. I still play it occasionally. I love playing Honor of Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Honor of Kings is something I really like. I play Clash Royale a lot, but that's usually when I'm at work and I can't commit to. It's about a 2-minute game, and if I'm at work, I can't play a 10-minute Pokemon Unite game.
Yeah.
Well, back then when I still had a job, and what else? And why did I commit to Pokemon Unite? I'm a Pokemon fan ever since I was such a small kid. I remember there was like this neighborhood boy that lived like next door, and when I moved to the place I used to live before, when I was like 3 years old, he just gave me a Scyther Pokemon card. I still remember it was a Scyther Pokemon
And
card.
got you hooked.
And from that moment on, I was like, wow, Pokemon. And then we just played Pokemon. We played with Pokemon cards. I was hooked from that moment on. We played on DS, DSi.
Were you actually playing like the way Pokemon cards should be played, or were you just like randomly collecting? Because I mean, when I was small,
Random collecting. Random collecting. At one point, I do play it. I'm pretty proficient at Pokemon TCG Live. I play it as well. I'm good at Pocket, but I don't really play the game that much because it's a bit boring. Same with Live. I stopped playing both because I think the card games were a bit boring. I do have like a whole stash of Pokemon cards here behind me. Like, I collect all the Urshifu and Machamp cards.
Mm-hmm.
So every single Machamp card, every single Urshifu card, I need to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, that's how I got into Pokemon. Like MOBA, I was a long time competitor in MOBAs, and then a Pokemon MOBA shows up. Like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, that's how I felt because I was playing MOBAs forever as well. It started with like the MOBA genre officially started with StarCraft. I think it was a game called Aeon of Strife. But I got into it when it became a thing with Warcraft 3, because that's when Dota became a thing. And I remember this is like during the summers when my family would travel to Europe, and there were these like gaming cafes, which weren't very popular in the US at the time. And so we'd go to those gaming cafes, and they would be playing either Counter-Strike or Dota. And for some reason, I like the Dota genre much more. I mean, the MOBA genre much more. So that's when I started playing Dota. But back then, there was no like matchmaking, and it was always just a shit show in terms of who was gonna win and all that.
You in your game, yeah.
Characters were very unbalanced. It was, yeah. And then obviously these other MOBA games came out. I think the next big one that I played was League of Legends. But before that, there was another one. I forget what it's called. But I played League of Legends from like when it was like in beta or something, and I played it like way too long, so much that like my grades in college started going down, and I just gave it up for a while, and when I did, of course, my grades went back up. but I gave it up, and I stopped playing video games pretty much for many years after that. But you know what was interesting? I realized that my like reaction speed started slowing down. Did you ever take a break from video games and notice that?
Not really, but what impacts reaction speed for me is sleep a lot, and what I eat and drink. Like for
Negligence,
me,
maybe.
yeah, for me, what I do in my daily life outside of gaming affects my reaction time. If I game for too much and I don't find a healthy balance, I start playing way, way worse.
Of course.
So I need to limit the amount of time I play on a day, and if I play a lot of times, I need to offset it with a good amount of exercise and a very healthy diet that day. It's just something around like brain fog. Like I get so not doing anything is so mentally draining other than gaming that I start to, I don't know, start to feel disappointed in my day. I'm not enjoying gaming, and it doesn't work out that well anymore.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because I think there's two parts to it. There's like the like subconscious part where you just like do certain movements without like thinking about it or reacting
Yeah.
to certain things without thinking about it. But then there's also the conscious part where you have to actively think about what to do next or what decision to make. And when we are tired or when we play for too long, we don't actively think that well. At least I don't. So I make bad decisions. I mean, I still have, let's say, decent micro or good micro, especially if I play a character I'm familiar with.
Hmm.
But then I make bad decisions and then it ruins the whole game.
Yeah, it's. I think that's like the biggest challenge also for these new players coming into Unite. Like there are several, a lot of that we have in the server as well. It's like um, to be focused on every single decision you make is genuinely a skill, and it's a skill you can learn. But there are people who are like playing the game and and they kind of forget that they're playing the game. Like they're so focused on playing on a script that they have in their mind that they forget to adapt or to look at the state of the game itself,
Yeah,
and that is the leading factor on which you need to base your next actions. They're doing actions without actually thinking about what action is needed there, but they're doing what's familiar.
yeah,
I always say, let's call it playing on autopilot.
yep.
Like when my girlfriend is playing with me, sometimes she just does random things, and I'm like, why did you do this? And she's like, I don't know.
I think
I
it
don't know
has to
why I
do
did
with the
that.
lack of experience, like you mentioned, but I think it also has to do with like the lack of opportunity to practice that skill in other scenarios. Like apart from video games, like it can be a transferable skill, but in real life, where do we practice that? You know, like these high intense scenarios where we have to actively think. Like the only thing I can think of is maybe driving.
Yeah, driving is a really good one. I would tend to say, people that are driving then would make better candidates to be focused in game. Maybe, I don't know. People that like to play chess are better at strategy. Maybe,
Strategy, but not
stuff
not
like that.
necessarily
Yeah,
like reaction speed.
true. So there are things you could do in your real life that's going to benefit different aspects of your in-game. Now, of course, you shouldn't be a chess playing driver to be good at both, but
Yeah,
I think there are some situations in which your brain could be trained to do that better, but it genuinely has to do with I think discipline. For myself, I am a really good strategist. I've been a coach and an analyst for many teams. One of them being the third best EU team at one point, BH3. Um, I have excellent micro as well. It's and so my reaction speed is on top, but I will say that there are still games where at one point at 5 minutes, I'm wondering what the fuck did I even do in my game?
yeah.
Like I did nothing I was supposed to do. So I don't think it genuinely has to do only with the trading the automatism, but some games I really need to be dedicated to know. Like one good really good way to train this is to be like, now in the next 10 games I'm going to try to die 0 times in game. Like that's all. And if you really remember that goal throughout the 10 minutes, you're going to always have like a clean, sober state of mind, and deciding where to go next. Once you forget the objective of not dying in 10 minutes in 10 games, you start dying. It's kind of like that. It's a sort of discipline that you need to stick to a rule that you make, a baseline rule. I,
When you said
I-
discipline, I initially thought like having a good like routine in your life, like making sure you eat right, you have enough sleep, you exercise enough. Because for me, like that's super important. I noticed that obviously sleep is probably the most impactful, but also a lack of exercise has a huge effect because if I do it like a gaming session for let's say 1 or 2 hours,
Hmm.
then if I exercise before gaming, I perform way better. But if I don't exercise
Yeah.
before gaming, I mean, it's interesting because even if I do exercise like 4 hours prior, it helps, but not quite as much as exercising like right before. And I think it has to do with the fact that your brain just has more oxygen, your blood is fresh, and all that.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
exercising, I think, is one of those super underrated things that people neglect, and it's easy to neglect because gamers are typically don't exercise much.
Hmm. No, it's definitely true, right? Before I play a tournament game, I'm usually swimming. Like next to my house is like a resort center, and it's just 2 minute walk, and I'm already in a big swimming pool. So usually before I'm gaming, I tend to be swimming. Like sometimes I have two scrims in an evening. Like with the team I'm training with right now, Klaus, Volto, Vazid, Kuro, Brutal, Ray. We I tend to, do this before I game, and it helps me perform really well. At one point, my performance wasn't that impactful, but last weekend we played against Mia Familia, who were undefeated in the EUL, and we beat them 2-1. So I think it definitely helps. Like my personal testimony is like exercising always helps. There's also some, placebo effect shit that I do myself. I always drink water with honey and salt before I before I game.
No,
I don't know.
it works. It works. I used
It's
to be on
something
the
I've
swim team
done
in high
forever.
school, and one of the things that we would do, I'm not sure if it actually worked or not, but shaving all of your hair off, like all of it. I'm not sure if it was a placebo effect or not, but I definitely swam faster. Like my time was cut like significantly.
Maybe you feel baby smooth, and you need to be smooth in water. I don't know.
Yeah.
In any case, I think exercise really helps. But even if you exercise and you don't have the discipline in game, you're gonna fail literally every game. Um, there are some people who lock into playing a game and they forget that they need to talk to their teammates, like in five stack. This is like a discipline. Okay, it's fine that you don't talk sometimes, but it is an art to always be able to speak, to always be able to let the team know what you're doing, and without having it compromise on the skill that you have. I think that's the if you want to be a good gamer, before exercise comes the discipline to do well in game. If you have the discipline to do well in game, I think at least it's gonna follow that you can have some discipline to do well in your life. But if you can't keep the discipline up for 10 minutes, it's not gonna work out.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
think
it's just ten
there's a
minutes.
balance that needs to be achieved there because, like, when I started playing with five stacks and using the microphone, I realized like I was focusing a lot on the stuff I had to say because I didn't have enough practice. I had to be like actively engaging and knowing what to say next. That I could only really play characters that I was like 100% confident, and it became like, a subconscious thing to play them because
Mhm.
I was focusing more my attention with communication rather than the gameplay, and I had to be so good at the gameplay that I had to have so much practice that I didn't need to think about it so that I could focus on the communication. Because when I do play a character that I don't have that confidence in, I like my my play suffers significantly because I have to focus on two things, both communication and the gameplay if I don't have enough practice.
I will say in that regard, there is a lot of people who overestimate the importance of communication. Now, of course, communication is important, but there is also a place where it's not really needed. A lot of people tend to overcrowd the communications to the comms, and they say shit that no one really needs.
Yeah, stuff that
Like
doesn't really
some of,
bring value.
yeah, yeah. So as example, I'm gonna do the farm in the back. It's not really useful, but just say, tank, come with me. Tank, come farm with me. Like that's a better call. But if you say, as example, let's say it's 5 minutes. Your first bot lane tier pad is broken. You're going for the back farm. Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm going to the back farm," it's better to just say, "Hey, tank, come farm with me." Everyone knows that you're going there. It's a better way. Plus an instruction. You're hitting two birds with one stone.
Well, I
But
mean, in
some
that
people,
case, it might be useful because then your team knows that you're going bot. At least.
But if you say your tank come farm with me, then they already know one you're farming, and they can see on the minimap in one single glance where you're going. So it isn't really that effective to say every single step. Imagine if everyone in the team are always communicating exactly what they're doing. It's going to be so overcrowded. So yeah, communicating is important, but you need to find a way. You need to. What I would suggest is making a list of what of the things that pertain my role actually affect the game. So you
Well,
have
let me actually. So I want to break it down a little bit. So let's say you do plan on going bot lane to get the farm. Maybe you're respawning, or you plan on going there within the next 5 seconds. Should you be making the call to tell your teammate to come down with you, or should
yeah.
you let them do that for you, based on the?
No. So let's say, as example, a damage carry player, be it top lane, mid lane, or jungle or bot lane, always needs to be the one farming if there's farm up. And if they are farming, it's their job to call out to a specific defender or support to come there, because the defender or supporter also has the job to make sure that the jungle isn't being invaded, that they can see in lane who's pushing up, who's not pushing up. So there are moments in which you cannot rely on these players to always look at you, what you're doing. So the best way is to treat your teammates like a baby. um, hey, come with me, I'm gonna farm. Maybe they already saw you doing it, but it's helpful. Why? Now the team knows that you're going there to farm, and now the jungler, who was originally in central, now knows I'm gonna stay a little bit closer to bot lane because my two bot laners are gone. So this is the way to go about when you're making the call for your tank to come help you. You with farming, because they also need levels, you're communicating to your tank, and this communication automatically needs to trigger your jungle to see that, okay, there's less presence on the bot lane, I'm going to cover a bit there. So that is an automatic way off that a team needs to make. A team shouldn't have to say, okay, I'm going to farm in the back. Like, let's break it down. There's another way you could say that. I'm going to farm in the back. I'm leaving bot lane. Can someone farm bot lane with me? That's three sentences that could actually be said in just one sentence. Hey, tank, come farm in the back with me. That's as simple as it is. So I would make a sort of a list, which is sort of how do you say it? A sort of analysis on what are the things that I need to say in my role to communicate to the team, and how can I make this efficient. That would um, and the only exception to the rule is the first minute. You know, the farm in lane, you need to talk with your tank about what are we going to do, or with your bot lane, or which farm are we going to fight. But other than the first minute, there needs to be enough space for the shot caller to make calls and for you to guide the team in what you're doing with simple statements.
So you mentioned earlier that you're like an analyst for this kind of stuff. What do you mean exactly when you say that?
Oh shit!
Did you spill coffee on your laptop?
No! I just broke my drawer. It's fine. So what would I mean with so could you rephrase the question, because
Yeah,
that
so you
shit threw
said that
me off.
you're an analyst, right?
Hmm.
And based on these responses, I can really tell that it might be true. But like, what does that actually mean, or how did you actually end up giving yourself that kind of um, credit? I guess that title.
Okay. So when it comes to an analyst, it's less so that I analyze the team I'm analyzing. I analyze the opponent's teams. So when it comes to, I watch their VODs, I watch what's not really the drafts or Pokemons they play, but I look at player habits. So as example, there's one specific habit that I saw back when Utah used to play Absol. Utah used to first start on the red buff and on the blue buff and on the bottom right push of the corridor, like the corridor close to the blue buff. He would end there, try to find the enemy. G5 would try to find some vision on the enemy jungler where they went, and Utah would respond by going either to the other lane or ganking the jungle if it's easy to gank that specific jungle. So that is an analysis that could be very helpful for a team playing against Gen 5, as
That
example.
required you watching their gameplays and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So I would spend some time watching a specific player in the opponent team. You don't need to watch every player. Sometimes knowing the habits of one player can open up a way to um, win the games in general. I know Potato as example. Potato dies a lot in the early game sometimes, but he is extremely proficient late game. Why? After winning the top lane late early enough, Potato likes to either rotate to another lane to get stacks, look for kills, sometimes takes a piece of jungle. In any case, he comes back into the game. Um, so I try to even if we are winning against top lane, I try to tell the team, okay, don't focus the top lane. He's going to int anyway, or he's going to level or play well anyway. Just focus on the other side of the map. It really depends on that. So it's really responsive. There was also a chart I made back when Lellovers was still a team, and I was coaching in that monthly, like before they disbanded. Back when Lellovers was still a team, I made a graph about what people play and what their win rate was. I noticed that, as example, Lellovers top lane with Potato and Nihat, their anything that they used to play with Blissey had a very low win rate. So it's actually in our benefit to give them Blissey and try to get a stronger tank that Marv used to be good at. So even though Blissey's strong, we could give it away because Lellovers is not exactly playing well with Blissey. So this is how you could also look at the opponent's team, and instead of trying to counter them, you could then again look at where can we get the benefits. It could be a lot of things, but
It sounds like a lot of it has to do with reviewing prior footage and that sort of thing. So how often are you looking back at how you play, like your gameplay?
I don't.
Would you say would you say that you
I don't.
should?
Yeah, I should, but I don't. When I go into a game, I kind of really know what I did wrong anyway. And I'm just like, I'm gonna try to do this better next game.
Honestly, I think the same too. But sometimes I still go back and I look at the gameplay and I'm like, it really opens my mind because I realize, okay, I know I did this wrong, but there are some even more specific things that lead up to that scenario, which is why it was so bad. So it's not necessarily that simple all the time. Like I remember specifically a recent match I used a Ho-Oh ult at the wrong time. But that wasn't the only mistake I made. That's just the only one I remembered.
The problem the reason why I underrate the value of VOD reviewing specifically myself. I VOD review my team. I VOD review how we play in scrims, and I don't look at specific individual behavior. Why? Because that situation in which you ulted, that specific case-to-case situation might never occur. Like, there are so many variables in the game where the chances of this coming back are really, really low. Like the same thing that Gotlu explained in that coaching. Some people spend so much time analyzing a specific situation in a VOD, which is it's not gonna happen again.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I used the ult at the wrong time because we were overextended. And if we weren't overextended, then that wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like this thing led to the other thing, which is why I ended up making a really bad decision there because I was just overextended. And then my team tried to come and help me, and then one of them died, etc., blah blah blah. And this was near like the Ray spawn, so one thing led to another, and then we just lost.
Yeah. That's all too familiar for me. This is not something that new players do. This is something that I've been guilty of. Dying before Ray or making a misplay before Ray, maybe even in Ray, after Ray. But there's an art in it is an art to find out, to be humble and go like, okay, this is what I did. There are some players in EU who, if they do something wrong, they're going to be like, oh, it was a draft. Oh, it was him. Oh, it was that.
So many people that blame everything else. But you know what? That's actually a good point. The ego. Like, I feel like, playing competitive games in general actually forces a person to kind of confront their ego in a way that is actually quite unique. Because like in today's society, actually, I feel like so many people, they are so afraid of failing that they don't have any practice with it. And so when they do fail, it really hits them hard. And they don't actually improve. They don't look back at themselves and see how they could have improved. But that's actually kind of why I think competitive games are really good in that regard, because given you're going to fail, like, one team wins, one team fails, So you're going to have to confront failure quite often, and it forces you to kind of dissolve your ego if you want to win and get good, theoretically. at least.
I agree with that. But there's also different levels of ego. You know, people know of me and in the EU scene that I do have an ego, but when you queue up into a tournament game with me, it is wildly different. I um, the example that I had was the game that we played against Mia Familia last Saturday. I made a mistake in game. I was like, I fucked up. You guys are gonna have to win Ray without me, like, cause I inted. Um, and it takes, some people would rather be quiet and they don't really say anything. So instead I tried helping my team while I was dead. But some people would rather be quiet and they don't actually let their team know that you're dead for the raid. It's a realization. They're afraid to highlight the mistake, but you have to highlight your mistake in that case because the team needs to know what they're really facing now. It was a 5v4 and they managed to clutch up a 5v4 because I died in the last game. And after the game, I apologized. I didn't make an excuse. I said, I have no idea what I did. The pressure was getting to me because someone of the enemy team trash talked me before the game. So there was pressure getting to me. I was like, I had pressure.
Do you think those environments like forces like new factors onto you? Because in a normal game, the enemy cannot talk to you. Like there's no all chat like there is in League of Legends. But in a tournament, maybe there is.
In some instances, because the reason why there was pressure anyway is because the last two games in the EUL we had already lost. And we have arguably one of the strongest rosters in the entire tournament. So there are expectations that come with us. We have a responsibility to show ourselves. We have one of the strongest lineups. Volto, Crystal, Klaus, Brutal, Ray. We have a ton of experience. Klaus being probably the most mechanically gifted player in Europe. So there's a standard, and I, as a team leader, I really feel those.
But you mentioned that there was some trash talking that was happening, right?
And then there was also someone. So usually trash talking doesn't really get to me that way. I'm going to explain an example next week. But there was a combination between expectations, ambition that I wasn't living up to, and then if someone adds a little layer up onto that, good luck because you are going to need it. that is something that it triggers some. I didn't think about it the entire game, but once it was Rayquaza, and it actually mattered what I was going to do, it shot back into my mind. And in that case,
I think there's a lot of this kind of mental games that happen in the competitive industry, whether that's like competitive sports or competitive games, and that's kind of something that Pokemon Unite the standard Pokemon Unite experience doesn't have because you don't have the all chat like League of Legends might have, and you can't trash talk your opponent. But in a tournament setting, you can start playing some mind games with your opponent and psych them out beforehand, and maybe that's what he did, and it got to you.
Yeah, he definitely did, and maybe that's what he wanted. But I did get mental gaps. But there's also an example for next week. This week we're playing as Plus Ultra. Everyone in Europe knows the bad blood I have with Plus Ultra. Like Oblivion and Plus Ultra have been the biggest rivals and the biggest enemies in EU forever, and they choose that moment to stream it. Like that game is going to be streamed. It's sensational. Everyone knows it. That's why they're streaming it. So, but in that game, there's a lot of pressure because there are a lot of people that messaged me.
Well, did they like explicitly say that, or is that just what you're thinking?
It's explicitly said that the reason that they're going to stream this is because we were on stream last week. There's no reason we should be on stream right now. But the reason is because we are the match against Plus Ultra. It's probably the most hyped match for this week. And the reason being is the bad blood. Like, I know the casters personally really well. So it's not about that the casters like Tano and some people that organize the EUL, they're like players that play with us. They know us. They speak in the community a lot. They see the things that are being said in chat. And And right after the game was scheduled, I got like 5 DMs of players, and they're like, "Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? How is it gonna turn out?" Like in the chat itself of where we organize the tournament, it said like, this is going to be an emotional match. Like one of the admins and the enemy team's tank said, "Okay, this is going to be an emotional match. This is gonna be funny." Like so now I still feel the pressure. I'm about to play, and if I don't win, I'm a fraud because I trash talked in the past few days. I said we're gonna win. God wills it. I said
mean,
so many things.
You gotta come back with some trash talking too, right? You can't just let them get to you.
True. True.
And of course,
But
try some stuff to get it off your chest. Like I think, for me at least, exercise is one of those things that kind of lets me like just process everything and clear the mind. So in those scenarios, are you also going swimming before the matches?
always, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely gonna be swimming rounds just to cool off. But it's going to be a challenge of a game then, because if I fold, I mean, if I'm not of the opinion that they're a strong team. Trash talking, but
Wait,
I shouldn't
when are you supposed to play with them?
Saturday, 7 p.m.
Saturday? Okay, I'll have this up before then.
Okay. But it could still be it's just like we could still get surprised, so that's something I need to watch out for. I need to be on top of my game. But then again, even when there's no one playing mind games with me, you still feel the pressure, and this is something that you're gonna see in competitive gaming. There are so many people in the regionals that were vouching or rooting for Shadow Wizard Money Gang, so my team, to make it through to qualify at least for the second day, for the second week, and we didn't. And there were so many teams that were like, "Wow, I have no idea how the fuck you didn't qualify," and that it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. It's
happens,
it's
man.
something that yeah, but it shouldn't have.
So how do you come back from something like that when you do fail and then you don't end up meeting those expectations? Do you have to take a step back and kind of, I don't know, do some self-reflection or something?
How do I actually come back from that? I don't know. There's nothing specific that I'm doing. I am highly motivated, so when a loss like that happens in a tournament, I just have to. I'm like, we gave it our best. Thank you for playing. That's always what I say. The first thing is when we lose to my teammate, I always say thank you for playing. You guys did your best. I did my best as well. And
I really
just
appreciate
wasn't
that, because there are some matches I've been playing where sometimes my teammates just, you can hear them getting audibly frustrated and then they start blaming other people. But it makes such a big difference because I know that I'm not the best on the team. It makes such a big difference for me when my team says something like that, when they're like, okay, I can see you tried. Thanks for trying. Thanks for playing. And they do give feedback, but not like throwing blame,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a person who people know in EU is really frustrated at sometimes. This happens. I'm also a player who had many flaws himself. I've had bad temper at sometimes, but generally I want to quickly apologize for that. I'm trying to be better, But I remember back in the day when I would be in your position or someone else's position, if someone were to talk to me like the way I used to talk to people, that some people would just not want to pick up the game again.
Yeah, it can be very off-putting. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've had days like that myself. So, but not many players have this. There are some players who in houses, and it's actually, now that you mention it while we are talking, it's something that I'm not enforcing enough on, actually, and I think that might be one of the big reasons that things are running dry is because of the insane moaning in game.
Yeah, it does happen. I've noticed it happens quite a lot, and from my perspective, it takes a bit of energy to kind of just have the grit to continue through it, because it's quite frustrating to hear people saying that this player did really bad or this player is not good in that lane, or et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, making general statements like that doesn't really help much. Unless you're trying to understand who should go in which lane and stuff like that, sure, okay, that makes sense. But just like saying general statements and not giving specific feedback, doesn't really help. And
True.
I think there should be, like, the thing is, there has to be a balance here, because there needs to be feedback, but there also needs to be like a level of feedback where the person doesn't feel dissuaded to continue trying. And trust me, there have been moments where that was the case for me.
And that's something that I'm going to try to speak to a few people about, because I know that the moaning is generally it generally comes from a few people. Um, I think I'm gonna have to discuss that.
Well, to be honest, I think it might be worth it to mention it, at least coming from you. They might listen to you rather than someone like me who doesn't have as much experience. But do you think that might affect their chances of getting into a good team?
What do you mean, the frustration?
Yeah, like if they express those kind of frustrations, other teams might see or notice that, and they might be hesitant to take them on.
Oh no, I don't think so.
You don't think
the reason being
it affects like the mental of the team?
When it comes to reputation, because now we're talking about a little bit about reputation of players, right? If I in a game, if I'm like, bro, Phoenix, bro, you're grinding my balls. Can you try to land on your ults? Let's say something like that. Another player who hears this might be like, Phoenix is not hitting his ults. But it's case to case dependent. If you go into the next game and you play okay, or you win with that person, the first case is kind of forgotten. It doesn't really matter. People glance over, and this is also true for me. If I go like, bro, Phoenix, you're kind of playing ass this game. Like, lock in the next one. And maybe you don't lock in the next one, but the next time I play against you in houses, or I play with you, and you're playing well, or you just played and I lost, I don't really remember that. Of course, as example, I remember that a long time ago when you used to try out for my team, stuff didn't work out, but I pick you sometimes in captain's draft, so I still remember that really clearly, but it doesn't have any value.
You must have done something to help stick out.
You were no. It was extremely unique because
it was
I
because I
remember
didn't want to put XP share on Blastoise or something like that.
Umbreon.
Umbreon, no. It was Blastoise.
Sure.
Because I remember having a specific build.
It wasn't. It was several months actually. I thought, because we tried so many. I don't remember exactly, but I was like, you have 3 damage carries in your team. You're the only one who should be running XP share then, and you didn't want to do it because it was pretty weird. But
I think I remember it was a scenario when I was trying to play Blastoise and I saw. I think it was actually before they updated XP share, and now it's even better than it was before. But back then, it was kind of normal to have 1 XP share, maybe 2. I guess in the competitive scene, it was still normal to have 2.
Always, yeah. It's always been normal to have 2.
Yeah.
In competitive.
But at some point, like in solo queue, it wasn't always the case where you would expect to have 2. But anyway, I ran a Blastoise build without XP share.
yeah. But in any case, I don't remember exactly the details, but I do remember what happened and how we were like, yeah, this is not gonna work out. But it's been 1.5 years ago. I don't really care about it. So of course I still remember that, but I'm not thinking about it if I'm thinking about, am I gonna play with Johnny or not? It has no value. The same way as if some games, I remember you played against me playing Zacian on top lane, and you lost really hard with a level 4 Azumarill.
Yeah, I remember.
With a level 3 Azumarill.
Honestly, I kind of got tilted that match.
But like, the thing is, I'm looking at you, but even though you didn't play that good, you're not really a top lane main. Okay, you like playing all-rounders, but you're not a top lane main. And I could see that in the way that you're not doing some farm on time. Like when you lose a farm on 9:30 on the top lane right side, you should be there on 9:30 to take it before I'm there. Yet at 9:28, I was able to take it from you. So
well, I mean, there's a lot of factors there, and I can tell you from my perspective, I think the biggest one is having lack of experience, because in the game, I think the least picked roles are defenders and supporters, and obviously those are important. So I end up choosing those roles because nobody's filling them, which means I don't get as much practice as an all-rounder or top lane. But if I do just lock in instantly with those roles, nobody's going to play defender or supporter, and then we're kind of screwed anyway. So
True. However, when it comes to top lane, the thing is not really about just experience. The top lane experience doesn't come from solo queue. You're gonna win almost every top lane in solo queue, but in competitive, top lane is the single hardest role in the game. Like, it's not even close. Top lane is the most difficult. It's the least rewarding. You play the most difficult mons there, and you play against the most difficult mons.
So if top lane is the most difficult, which one is like the least? If you were to like, order them.
Support.
Support's the easiest?
Yeah, 100%.
And then after that?
I would say attacker, then defender, then jungler. I think defenders are so important in Rayquaza. Maybe some people disagree with attacker defender, but I think defenders control the entire Rayquaza. A bad defender, you lose Rayquaza. That's just what it is. A defender in Rayquaza needs to do the right things, needs to not take too much damage, needs to know the area between the two teams, what they can occupy without getting destroyed. It's so difficult as a defender. You have to make the decision to either betray your backline to help your frontline engage, or betray your frontline engage to help your backline. Everything is dependent on what you are doing. If someone's flanking, you need to be engaging. If you're getting flanked, are you still choosing to engage with your flank or peel? It's difficult. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
I also play only those two roles. I play jungle and I play bot lane defender. Like, I play two. I'm actually also defender main, but you generally don't see me play it because people generally want me to play DPS. But I play both.
How did you end up choosing your role? Because this is something I've kind of been struggling with. If I'm going to focus on one role, I don't know which one to focus on most. Because the thing with the top lane,
well, that depends on what challenges are you facing while choosing your role.
The challenges. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to kind of mention. Like, the top lane seems like there's going to be more challenges, more difficult challenges, while defender seems like, sure, there's still challenges, but it's going to have a different kind of impact.
That's not what I mean. It's about what prevents you from choosing support? What draws you to either top lane or defender? Like, what are the way-offs that you're making? What are you currently conflicted about?
Well, if I were to talk about that, I think the main thing that I like most is like the bruiser playstyle.
The melee.
Yeah, I guess the melee, yeah. Which is usually top role or all-rounders, but also defenders in some cases.
Yeah.
So that's usually the thing I really enjoy most, just because I think this game is a lot about momentum and maintaining momentum. And being the bruiser, usually they're the ones who are able to pressure and put that kind of momentum a lot, because they have usually more sustain, and they're usually, in the front line, kind of putting pressure on the enemy team, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. The reason why I chose my roles has everything to do with my personality. You need to have your roles picked by your passion. You need to pick your roles by your passions. The reason why I mentioned personality is I love playing melees. The reason why is because I love fighting with hands. I am a huge enjoyer of history. I used to love that in the history they fight with swords. That's what I started. Like, my first,
like self-defense and that sort of stuff, like taekwondo or krav maga.
I learned sword fighting in India.
Interesting.
Yeah. So melees, history, everything about I'm not someone that likes the guns. I'm someone who likes the sword, the fights, warfare. That was always so interesting to me, and not modern warfare. That's where it started, and like way before. I'm a history nerd, like a really big one.
Sounds like maybe what we should be doing is taking personality tests before we choose our roles.
I would say so. Like, Um, and then I started playing, the games, and I was like, okay, I really, really love taking kills and doing damage and being a surprise factor. Like suddenly an Urshifu ulting in your backline and going ham there with a peak full heal, it's a surprise factor. Like you can't. It's so micro dependent. Like everything you do, whether you die or whether you succeed, is in your own hands. I like playing stuff like that. If you're playing an attacker, yeah, you could position well, but you can still be one shot by an absolute. Like it's also skill based. I'm not saying it's less skill based, but you don't always die or survive solely because of the way that you play. Sometimes you die just because of the circumstance of the game. Sometimes you're just unlucky.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Same
certain roles
thing.
also have like a high risk, high reward type of scenario, especially the
Yes.
attacker.
And in this case, the all rounders, whether I die or I win, is completely in my own hands alone. And I like that specific thing. Like I like being responsible for what I do. I'm not dependent on my tank competing for me. I do everything alone.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the interesting part about the tank because with the tank, you kind of have to sacrifice the fact that you're not going to get those kills or you're not going to actually be the one who's going to live because you have to sacrifice yourself to make sure that your team can continue the fight or wipe out the enemy team.
That's the interesting thing about defenders. I am also a huge fan of playing defenders, even though they don't get me kills that much. The reason why is because defenders symbolize, leadership, perfection. You need to make the right choice. Everything you do, your entire team depends on what you do. You are the front line. You need to take most of the damage. If you're not taking the damage, someone else is. And that's a big problem for your team. So the reason why I also play defender, it's melee. Like the defenders are also close range bruisers, and it's like sometimes on defenders I'm still kill leading the team. Like it's pretty funny, but I even as a defender I kind of played like an all-rounder, and I can also pivot really well to peeling. Sometimes I play my all-rounders as a peeler. Like Zacian late game, it's weak, so I use Zacian to use play rough to peel from my attacker, and I let the defender engage with the jungler. So there are certain ways that every role can change in its utility, and defender is one of those roles that has so much flexibility. You do it alone as well. Like you're leading the fight. You're the vanguard. Um, you're also bruising. Yeah, you're not getting as many kills, but your responsibility is far greater than almost any other Pokemon on the team.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also what makes defender attractive for me.
I think it requires people to look at it from a certain perspective because as a defender, you probably have to look at the more bigger picture to make sure that, okay, can your team actually follow up on your engage to make sure that they get the value out of that engage? Otherwise, it was just a random, worthless sacrifice that didn't really contribute much to the game.
Yes, and it's so micro heavy. Like imagine a perfect Trevenant engage. Like it's micro heavy. You have to make the decision in before that play happens. You have to one look at, is my team around? That's the first analysis you need to make. Then will I be able to get everyone? Then will we be able to kill them? And then you also need to focus on doing the micro in the perfect moment. So there are 4 decisions that come into play at one big play. The same doesn't go for an attacker. An attacker doesn't have to do these things.
Well, actually, I
An
think you bring up a
all-rounder.
good point there because when it comes to the differences in play between like solo queue and coordinated teams, as a defender, like you still have to look out for those kind of things, but because you lack the communication aspect, you kind of have to rely on your team seeing these cues as well. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if you're on a coordinated team, I think maybe it makes a bigger difference when you play defender because then you can communicate your intentions and then your team can follow up on these things. Whereas,
Yeah, definitely.
whereas maybe something like an attacker doesn't necessarily have that kind of problem.
That's true. An attacker is dependent on their front line engaging. But the same thing also goes for the all-rounder. Let's say that we have an enemy team with 3 attackers. The flank is the most important aspect of the game. If the all-rounder flanks in alone, he's gonna die by just 3 basic attacks. Like the damage in this game is absurd. Like an all-rounder is gonna die in a second if he flanks alone. The same way that that happens in League and Mobile Legends and Dota and Smite. You have to engage. The tank has to drain the focus of these attackers, sacrifice their HP, so that the all-rounder can have the perfect flank without being seen. The same thing, like you're coordinating with the top laner, and you also need to coordinate this with the jungle. Like in Rayquaza, people don't understand how difficult the tank role is and how much is dependent on these tanks. It's the single most important role in the game, in my opinion. Tanks are the most important Pokemon in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so as well. And I think maybe that's why I've noticed the biggest difference in terms of how much like success I have when I play defender compared to all rounder. I mean, based on what you're describing as well, maybe I a big part is probably that I don't have enough practice with the all rounders as well, because I think there are a lot of all rounders out there that require a lot of practice. Like for example, I haven't been practicing Blaziken, and a big reason for that is just because there are so many abilities that you need to throw off and so many combos that you need to do. So much depends on being able to react very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think before I practiced that character, I was trying to practice characters that didn't require that sort of super fast combos and stuff like that, just so that I'm not focusing more on that specific character. I'm focusing more on overall gameplay, like the macro aspect, right?
I think that's sad though, like at some point, because I don't. The Pokemons that I play are some of the most micro heavy Pokemons. So my misfortune, but I felt really drawn to Urshifu Blue. It's probably this one of the hardest Pokemon to play in the game right now. I like Blaziken a lot. It's difficult to play. I like Scyther a lot. It's fucked up hard to play. There are some Pokemons that I play who are all melee, and they're some of the most difficult to play and master in the game. But I master them. I've been playing them for a very, very long time. So much so that it makes me stand out from some junglers in the region. When people know how powerful these picks can be, and then you have someone who masters them, and now you're also communicating well, you're also speaking with your team, you're a leader in game. These aspects come together and they make you an extraordinary player. If you're going to try to learn EVs because they're easy to play, or other easy Pokemons, you don't stand out, and the emphasis on how good you are strategically is way more important. There are players that may not be so good strategically, but they're so good at specific picks like Zoroark that they're a must-have for competitive players,
Yeah.
must-have for competitive teams. So I think you want to watch out with playing easy to play Pokemon because you don't stand out. You want to stand out.
Like you have a good point there, but I also have this kind of strategy in terms of how I want to approach which Pokemon I want to get good with, because initially I wanted to get good with Pokemon that require like a low amount of time to get good at. Maybe the ones that are easier to play, because then I can focus on the macro gameplay, and once I have that really down, then I can focus on the micro gameplay for these more difficult Pokemon. And also, like for example, now I am practicing Blaziken whenever I get the chance, and it's actually really nice now because I feel like I've kind of unlocked something else. It's like I've been reserving this journey of getting good at this character until now, because I feel that now is the right moment. And I think it has to do with other factors too, because like for example, I travel around a lot because like I mentioned before, I work remotely, and I move from place to place every month or two.
Yeah.
But I plan on staying here for the next year, which is kind of rare for me. And I made sure to have like really strong internet connection. And the problem with some of these places is that they're not always the best internet connection. And sometimes I play on some bad ping. And some characters are really easy to play on high ping compared to others. Like Rapid Spin Blastoise, for example, is probably one of the easiest on high ping.
But don't you think that if you trained the more difficult Pokemon first, all the easy Pokemon are just a breeze? Like, it's so easy for me to pick up a Pokemon and get a Penta with it. Like in solo queue, a Pokemon I've never played before. I learn in the first few minutes of the game, and then I'm destroying ass. The whole reason is because I played such micro-intensive Pokemon before, and it's so easy to get the other ones right. why do I play Zoroark as well as I do, or Scyther? They're dash-heavy Pokemon, and my first Pokemon that I mastered was Urshifu, a dash-heavy Pokemon.
I think you have
So
a good point there, but like if you play with high pink, trying to play with those very like dash heavy
yeah,
Pokemon,
that
man,
makes sense.
it makes me want to lose my mind because
Yeah, I don't play them either in hyping.
it's just so frustrating. And Blaziken is one of those situations because you have to hit some abilities to be able to hit another ability, like the
Yeah,
Fire Punch or Aerial Ace. And so if there's ping, you're not getting the second one off. And man, there have been so many situations, even with Pokemon like Azumarill, where just a little bit of ping makes me want to throw my phone against the wall.
Azumarill is also a difficult one.
Really? I don't know. I would say it's not that difficult, but what do you think
No,
makes it difficult?
it would be difficult in competitive. Why? Because your passive is useless in competitive. Because people are not going to play 1v1 versus you. They know you're playing the Azumarill. They're going to stack up, and you're not going to get that much damage off. That's one. Because you're not playing in 1v1s. That's why. Then you have the other problem in competitive. So when I'm speaking, I'm always looking at competitive play. Yeah, the Pokemon's fundamentals are really easy to get to understand, but how to play them in competitive is it's so difficult because people it's not it's not it's not an impressive Pokemon. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It's strong early game, but it falls off really, really hard late game. More than almost, I think, any top laner. Almost every top laner. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, Zacian in one combo takes off 70% of his HP. I charge ult while you're ulting, and did you know Zacian does more damage to people that ult? So if I do damage on you and then you ult, and by the time that your ult flies onto Zacian, I'm already charged 60% of my ultimate.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get a 4k damage slash on your face if you ult into me as well. I have barely ever lost against an Azumarill with Zacian. It just doesn't happen. Also because I'm just stunning the entire time. Aqua Tail is really easy to play against. Yeah. The other one is more difficult to play against versus Zacian. If I have 10 points, it depends on how many points I have. If I have 10 points, then I can win against an Azumarill. If I don't have 10 points, then I lose against a Raw Pro Play Rough. But generally, late game, I'm not going to have 10 points, I'm going to have 50. So it generally doesn't matter much. Azu, I think, falls off a lot late game.
Well, to be honest, when I started playing that character, it was back when it first came out, and I was like, oh, it's a bruiser type character, fits my personality, I'm gonna get good. And trust me, I've tried all the different strats with it, just to kind of test it and push the limits. But that's why
there's also
I'm
one
getting
more
good
problem
with Blaziken now, because I know that it's a whole different approach.
Blaziken can do so many things. Like Blaziken is also like I said, Urshifu, it's skill dependent. Everything depends on how you play it.
Yeah.
The problem with Azu as well is that you cannot peel. The problem with Azu, like Zacian, you can make it play as a defender because all of your moves have CC, literally every single one of them. So whenever a speedster tries to engage on my backline, I play rough it and it's dead instantly. Azu doesn't have the same.
It only has a little bit of a slow, but yeah.
Yeah, you can use play rough against it, but the problem is that Zacian hides in the bush and dashes onto it. If you see an Azu in the backline, you're not gonna jump, and Azu only has very, very melee play rough range. So Zacian has multi-purpose, and it also has an insanely good smite on Rayquaza late game and good rip. So even though Azu could the problem with Azu is that it's one-dimensional. It is offensive only. Zacian you can play in any way you want.
Maybe that's part of the strategy I was going for, to handicap myself with a low potential character, so that when I do start playing one that has high potential, the game is on easy mode now.
I would have actually recommended you playing Zacian then, actually.
Well, I did for a while, but see, I play on my phone, and you probably play on the Switch, right?
No, I play on the phone.
You do? Don't you find it a little bit of a struggle to have to consume the AOS energy with Zacian and try to use your abilities back to back to back on the phone? Because there's an additional button there, And this is why I think that if we are playing on the phone, we should get like one of those gaming phones with a sensor or a button on the top or on the back, because then you can assign that button to that, you know, to that ability. Because
I
Zacian
would
essentially
say
has an additional button you need to press.
I don't feel that way about it. The reason why is because I time my boosts during the moment that my enemy CC'd, so I don't really care about it. Like when I'm doing play rough and I use sacred, you always want to do one sacred before doing the second boosted one. Why? Because sacred sword increases your damage stat. So if you play rough in and you do a sacred sword, that stun time you can just press you don't have to do any other move. You can just press your AOS energy button and do either another one or do another play rough, because there's in that moment you're not going to be engaged by the opponent, and if you get engaged, who cares? You cannot do anything. You cannot even walk
Yeah,
because you're
yeah,
getting engaged on.
but I mean, like the time might be really small, but the time that you have to move your thumb from that button to the other button could be the difference. Like, you know,
Sometimes,
I've been watching some
sometimes I
pro players, and some of them they pull off these combos that would probably be impossible on a phone, just because you can't access both buttons at the same time. So I think if we want to actually have an advantage, or we want to be on the equal level, we should get one of those gaming phones. Have you ever considered getting one of those?
I have a gaming phone and I can do the same thing that you're saying. I have sensors on the back of my phone that I can use to upgrade those points. The problem is that I'm trying to train for LAN events. The coming year I'm training for EUIC and I want to get to Worlds. I think that's possible, but that's where my goals are. If I train with this now, I'm never going to be able to play that pick in a LAN as good.
Wait,
And
that's because you have to use their devices, or what?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. And they check that stuff. You're not allowed to use sensors like stuff. It's very limited. Otherwise, it's cheating.
How?
Trust me,
That's
on a
cheating.
world stage, on EUIC stage, the staff is gonna check your stuff.
Well, yeah, of course they're gonna check, but a gaming phone, I mean, how is that cheating? It's just like a hardware thing. It's not like a
It doesn't really matter. It's to avoid the specific what we're talking about.
interesting, because essentially you have to decide which downside to have, because playing on the Switch you have other downsides, you know, like abilities that require some fine aiming, you know.
Yeah. That's why I don't play on Switch. I have both in my room. I have a Switch 2 here, and I have a Pokemon, and I have my phone, and I'm choosing the phone every day. Like I'm never playing on the Switch. I don't like playing on it. I think for me, I am faster with Zacian on the phone, because in some combos I use 4 fingers while I'm playing. I use my fingers like this.
How is that comfortable?
It's not.
Maybe that's
It's
why
not.
you're able to play it, you know, because otherwise I would never play like that, to be honest.
You could give me 2 fingers and I could still do it. I think because of how used to I am.
Do you put your phone
Yeah,
on the table or what?
no. I have it in my hand. I hold my phone up between um between this finger and my pink. So it's resting, but here.
Between
It's resting.
your pink,
It's resting here.
like this.
Yeah. So no, something like that. Almost. But
Wait, I'm gonna try it out. I need to see.
oh, where's my phone?
This. Is this what you're talking about? See, my hands are like this. Is this how you play?
Something like that.
Yeah. So you play like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very fast at panning my map, etc. Like I play like that on my phone.
That's crazy, man.
It also depends on the Pokemon. With Urshifu, I don't.
Okay, so on Zacian, do you play like that? The crab
Yeah.
grip?
Yeah. On Zacian, I do.
Mm,
It also depends when I know that a team fight's coming. Sometimes I'm just farming and then I just relax my hand. But when I know a team fight's coming, I just switch my pose a bit.
interesting. Well, see, that's the main reason why I didn't want to play Zacian, because of that reason. I don't want to have to hold my phone like that.
It is extremely rewarding to play this Zacian. I think people underrate it. People are bitching too much about the Pokemon being bad late game. It's so multi-purpose. You could go in. Some people. The problem why is some people look at the Pokemon as without having its ultimate. They look at the Pokemon, okay, you just used the ultimate for Rayquaza Secure, and I don't agree. I'm trying to get into an enemy bush and charge my ult to 40 points and just slice through the enemy team. Like, I'm not using my ultimate to save it for Rayquaza.
Yeah.
I'm using my ultimate defensively. So, and that's the difference between almost all Europeanization players. Europeanization players don't keep their ultimate. The only one I do know that uses it sometimes is TB. But all the other players, they don't save it. They save the ult instead of just using it at the right moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has to do a lot with like your playstyle and maybe a lot of practice to understand where it's important to be used and all that. But for me, like hearing you talk about it makes me want to play Zacian, but hearing you talk about how you have to grip the phone makes me want to not play it.
I can also play it without, but the thing is, you need to without using it like that. But that's because while I'm fighting, I'm panning the map to see the entire position of the enemy team, so that I can avoid taking damage. That's
So
the
main
drawback for
benefit
Zacian.
is being able to pan the map at the same time, not necessarily using your abilities, right?
Yeah, the main benefit of holding it like that is that I can pan the map and see the entire Ray fight while it's happening. The entire fight while it's happening. Because Zacian, you're very prone to getting poked down from afar. So you need to try to always keep track of the enemy ADC, enemy jungler, so that you're not the one getting ganked, but you're CCing him before you get ganked.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, but I could just play. I could play with 3 fingers, 2 fingers as well, and I'm just gonna be fine with Zacian. The reason why is
one
because
of those Pokemon you would use the grip.
no.
Good.
I mean, Blaziken, you need to remember to always use basics after some moves, but with your Razor Claw. But generally, I don't have to travel my finger much. It's just skill based, so I can just go like through the skills, and I can just use 2 fingers. But generally, using how many fingers, it doesn't matter. Like just because I use those fingers in that way doesn't mean that that's how the Pokemon's supposed to be played. Some people are very proficient and fast at just using their fingers, like just 2 of them. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. I've lost to people who just play with 2 fingers. Like it doesn't matter. Like the 14th letter N, who was a player on Café du Martin. I think he only uses 2 fingers on playing both of his Pokemon, and I lose against him sometimes on Blaziken. So it's whatever. Even in a 1v1, it could go both ways. We're both very professional in Pokemon.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons also why I didn't end up playing League of Legends Wild Rift, because even though that's also a mobile game, the characters have one more ability. And I've seen players who use tablets, for example, and they just place it on like a stand or something like that, and they just play like this. And that gives them a huge advantage because they could throw off all their abilities much faster than someone using just 2 thumbs, or I guess the grip that you're talking about. And that's like one of the main reasons I ended up going towards Unite, because it is simpler, but it still has that depth. What
No, I would say
keeps you playing Unite instead of those other MOBAs?
it's autism. I cannot stand not being a champion in Unite while I've been a champion in the other games. I have to go on, see it through his end. Once I'm a champion, I will retire.
And what does that mean to you, like champion?
Everything, being the best in Europe. I want to be. I want to be in the discussion that okay, who's the best player in Europe? This player. Oh, don't forget Crystal. That's where I want to get, and then I'm happy.
And then you're done.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the problem. There is no done. You should just always constantly strive to be even better and to get to the next level.
It's a game at one point, and eventually I'm gonna have to start building my life more. But up until that time, I'm going to try to get first in Unite.
Well, yeah, of course, it is a game, and I also see it in that way. It's not really the main thing that I do, which is why now, like, it's the only game I play. Like, I've tried all these other games in the past, but now this is the only game I play, just because I don't have unlimited time. And if I'm going to try to get good at a game, I have to commit to just one game.
Yeah. I wanted to go for League of Legends. Because of course I'm inspired by Faker, like almost everyone that wants to really game really, really well. Everyone knows Faker. It's the goat of gaming. So League of Legends was actually one of the things after Smite I wanted to go into League of Legends, but I don't know. My decision to go for Unite made it so that I could never get to that level of League anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What was the main reason for not choosing League? Just because it's more complex, or is it because it's
bad computer?
Software,
But
hardware limitations.
yeah, I didn't have the money to get a new computer. In any case, I won't ever be able to go for League anymore. It's too late. Some people play League since 16 years old, and they're way better than me.
Of course,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do now. I'm never gonna be at that level.
Maybe I could have gotten there because I played League when it was like in beta or whatever, and I played it forever. But to be
Could have,
honest,
yeah.
like after playing it for so long, there's a lot of things that it has that Unite doesn't have. Like it's not as toxic. Like it still can be toxic, of course, but because you don't have all chat, you don't have people trash talking each other in the all chat, which gets really toxic. And then after playing Wild Rift, I realized, I like the fast-paced 10-minute matches that Unite has because
Also fun, yeah.
you can get three matches in the time it would take for one League match.
But there are certain things that I'm bringing over from my MOBA experience to here. I'm a very big proponent of the 1-3-1 strategy, which is you have one strong melee top lane and one strong melee bot lane, and you have a ranged jungler with the support and tank rotating as the three of them. That is my favorite strategy. I've tried it in Unite. It's been very good to play actually, but most of the people I know haven't been that open to changing their game style completely for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that coming UCS I'm going to try. That we're going to be the team that's running the 1-3-1.
So you're saying a strong, essentially a bruiser top, a bruiser bot, and what was the other three?
Support defender and attack damage carry.
And they would go mid?
Yeah, they would go mid. You have of course, you have the tank who's going to be a bit around the bot lane. Then you have the support who's going to do to be a bit to help the jungler do it as fast as possible. You have top lane. You have like a buzz or something that can organization, something that can win the lane alone or hold the lane alone. Then they're going to rotate with the Buzzwell or with the ADC and support are going to gank a lane. Either they have a 3 top lane gank, which is a surprise, or they're going to gank the 4-man bot lane gank. And from that moment on, we control the pace of the game.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've
That's
noticed
something
that some
we did.
people are really resistant to taking on new strategies or new approaches. And I think it's a shame because the thing about Pokemon Unite that I like more than League of Legends is also the fact that a lot of these characters are more adaptable. You can use them in different scenarios more easily. And maybe they can fill different roles. Like even Snorlax, for example, sure, obviously it's a tank, but you can almost play like an all-rounder if you go Flail.
Yeah, I agree. I do play Lex as an all-rounder. I remember the first time I've played it was like a week ago. I got like 14 kills or some shit. Yeah. I got like 14 kills, and we still lost the in-house. But I was destroying ass with Lax. But I haven't played it before. Why? Because I thought Lax was a bit boring actually. I still think Lax is boring.
I agree.
So, but I do play Lax as a bot laner, bot lane tank sometimes.
Nice.
Sometimes I play tank. I play either tank or jungle. But actually also top lane. But I can also play attacker. I just don't play support.
Yeah. I think I would say the same. Support is the main thing I just don't like playing. Not because it's like the most boring, but you depend a lot on your teammates. Anyway, man.
The reason.
I do want to finish this off a little bit.
Yeah.
But before we do, I wanted to ask you, what's your next main goal with the community, with the Fight Club Discord community?
I want to organize, and we are organizing a whole new league, which is going to be the most unique and hype league in the world. We have several organizations working with me on this, with a lot of software development, because we're creating our own software. We're trying, at least.
Big.
We want to create a web app which runs from sheets that I make, where I can reward. It's going to be like a fantasy Premier League thing, fantasy league.
Interesting.
And the goal of this is to create player profiles and to get a lot of data on players to market these players to organizations next year, because the UCS format is changing. And there's actually no benefit for me in this, but I think the biggest benefit that I will have from this is that if I manage to get more eyes on Europe and in the sponsor scene, I can make Europe better than NA and I will be able to improve more against better players, against good players, motivated players, and I will genuinely be in the conversation as one of the best. One of the best players in EU will never be seen as one of the best players in the world because we're not the best region or one of the best regions.
Yeah.
It's always going to be either NA or either Japan.
Yeah.
I think that's a bummer, or Korea or some stuff. And
I think what you're doing is amazing. And right before you invited me, I was thinking that I needed something like that, and then poof, you sent me a message. So I think it's going in the right direction, and I think this is why I think we need to, like, the whole community as a whole needs to lift each other up and to help each other out and to contribute in whatever way they can. Like this podcast, for example, is something that I've had as an idea for a very long time. And I think after you invited me, after I tried out doing the in-houses for a while, I realized that I think this is the perfect place to kind of apply it. And I think doing the first episode with you is a amazing way to kick it off. So
what is your plan exactly to go with this? Like you want to like interview people in the community, pro players I heard from you. So where do you want to go next?
yeah, I mean, kind of similar to what you were mentioning as well. To be recognized in the scene, to become kind of like a well-known person in the scene, not necessarily even as a pro player, but somebody that has some sort of influence in the scene. Because like I mentioned before, I made an online course on how to get into master rank. I want to make another online course on how to get into a higher rank or how to become a pro player specifically for this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I did make other courses on other stuff before. I'm currently working on another course, but this is on a different industry. And I'm building up experience on making online courses. And I really enjoy gaming, and I think it's something that I'm super passionate about. So I'm trying to combine my passions with the skills that I have that I've been building up over the last few years, and I want to put it into something good. But the thing is, I know that as you get older, it becomes harder to become a pro player, because typically younger players have an advantage here. So I'm trying to kind of mitigate that by laterally contributing my skills, if that makes sense.
The best way in your position to get into a pro team is to work on different things in your micro. I think that would be complete understanding of the map, understanding of the objectives, which rotations are important, when selling an objective is important or a pad.
Macro, right?
Yeah, that's about controlling the pace of the game. If you can be a good in-game leader, I think for your age, that's the biggest benefit you can have. You know when the bees are spawning. You can motivate your team to go for the bees. You can motivate your team to look at the right place. You can organize your team. Then that is a skill that's so underrated, and that's easier for people that are more mature to realize than people that are young.
So the roles that they would probably fill would be either defender or supporter, probably, right?
Generally, you could also do that as another player, Pokemon, but it would be much easier for you to do this as a defender or attacker, and you have to lead the team in game. You have to be able to be calm, to know when the bees are spawning, keep a clear mind, look at you need to identify the problems that the other people in the team are not identifying. I think that is the single easiest way for a player like you, who is relatively newer to the scene, a bit older, has slightly less advantage than the very young of the scene. There's Nachos, who's very young, you have Resu, who's 17 or 16. They are the best in the region. And they're better than me as well. They're by a large stretch better than you at the moment. They could beat the world champions. They could have good games against world champs even. I don't know if they're going to win, but it's going to be a good game at least. So you could stand out in another way than destroying people in micro, and that has to be with what you say and what you do, and what you organize.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to do with draft, by the way.
Yeah.
The draft is just a small part, but then comes the 10 minutes of grinding, and you have to know the mechanics in game.
Yeah, of course. That's the reason why, like, I realized that you got to look at things in a slightly different perspective to understand where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and apply the optimal solution based on those factors.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's pretty much, I think, it for this episode, our first episode of the Elite
Mm-hmm.
Encounter podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I appreciate it.
I did. Thank you for wanting to do this in the server. You know, it's really nice to just have more things around. Where did you say you wanted to upload this, by the way?
So I'll be uploading this on my YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You can find it on my YouTube.
Okay. Once you have it, send me a link, and I will be making an announcement in the server, and you can pick it up from there. And we're going to see who we get on next.
Actually, I already had some interest. People messaged me to try to be on the podcast next. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to develop a pipeline of people to show up on here. And
Awesome.
yeah, for sure. I'm gonna get this out as soon as possible so that you can mess with the other team.
Awesome.
Cool, man. All right, Yashi, I appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the day, man.
Thank you, you too. Thank you for your time, man.